You're all wrong, and I'm very sorry you have to hear it from me, since I don't have anything I'm particularly well known for, any amazing high accolades, but I can see something as glaringly obvious as an overpopulated planet when I look at it. I want you to imagine that you've got a paper boat, and you're going to sail it across a river. And that river's going to be there for millions of years, at least for hundreds of thousands of years. And you're going to fill that little paper boat with rice. You put as much or as little rice in the boat as you want and sail it across the river. And then someone at the other side is going to put some more rice in and sail it back again. And then you're going to put some rice in and you're going to sail it back again. And that sailing is the life. That's what we call life. And those grains of rice, they're the people. Now I want you to imagine that that boat has only so many grains of rice it can manage at a time. And if you put the entire bag of rice on the boat, it's just going to sink. But if you just put a few grains of rice on, it's going to sail across the river, then they're going to tip off at the other side, and put some more on, and it's going to come back, and you're going to do that for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. And much, much more rice will go crossing the river with more space. With more space, they're going to enjoy that voyage a bit more, because they're not stuffed in there with too many other grains of rice. Now that is exactly what we have on the planet. Trying to stuff as many people into each century as possible, and it is completely unnecessary. Those people can wait to be born. We can use the fourth dimension of time to expand the size of the Earth, because after 70 years we die and there's another Earth. So every 70-year period is one Earth of population, and then the next 70-year period is another Earth of population. Of course they don't all die and get born on that point, but it merges, and on average you've got a new Earth every 70 years with new people on it. Okay? And yes, they overlap generationally, and they try and share their culture and all the rest of it. But that really doesn't matter if there's no planet there to have that culture on. The point is, these Earths, they extend far, far into the future. There's no rush. You don't have to stuff as many people on the planet as necessary at any given time. Especially when it's counterproductive, when it's actually causing so many problems and so much difficulty. Now, what is the cause of this stuffing? Well, there is a certain amount of instinctive behaviour to procreate as much as we can. And of course, the more under stress people get and the more thin the resources become, the more they tend to want to reproduce more, because children are more likely to die in a difficult situation, so you've got to have more of them. But we have this inside our heads, this brain, right? And we know that that behaviour is not going to help us in the current situation, so we should be able to use our brains. The trouble is, on an individual level, it helps you if you're only worried about your family. Well, there's only one family, and that's the family of the entire planet, because that family dies. It doesn't matter what your family did. It doesn't matter whether your family succeeded, because, unfortunately, it all went bang. So, if you're going to be intelligent about this, if we're going to be intelligent about this, then we simply have to have fewer children. Now, the other reason, the modern reason that population is growing so much is because nations encourage it. Why? Because a swelling population means your GDP grows faster than that of other countries. You can create more stuff to export for money. People can do more work and bring in more revenue to the treasury through taxation. So, that model needs to change and needs to become a flat line. At the very least a flat line, and preferably a downward line, because the planet's already too full. If it wasn't too full, why are people leaving some areas and coming to others? There's areas that are already going rotten. There's parts of the fruit that are already rotten. So everyone's coming to eat the good bits. And, my words won't go down well, I'm sure, but I don't really care. We have to flatline it. We have to reach some sort of stasis. We have to first do that first. And then we can work on getting our population to the most suitable level and then flatlining it from there. When I say flatlining, I'm talking about stability. I'm talking about keeping things stable, calm and level. Not fighting, not trying to grab more. You see, the economic model requires there to be a loser as well as a winner. And I know that those who love the idea of markets will deny this till the cows come home, but I'm sorry, it's rubbish. You get people saying, oh yes, but everyone has a higher standard of living now than they've ever had. Well, technologically we do, but that's because technology itself has advanced. Whether it be drug technology, whether it be the study of vitamins and food, and federal drug administrations, and so on, government advice. The laws that brought in lack of exploitative jobs, particularly in the West. You can't just go shove someone down a coal mine for 14 hours a day. But, you see, they measure these things with numbers. The growth, right? Now, are you still getting taller? I mean, if you're over 18, do you still get taller every year? Do you keep getting taller and taller and taller? If you did, you would have a disease. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a disease where you can't stop growing. It's fatal. You die about the age of 40, 45. Cancer is another disease that doesn't stop growing, where the cells can't switch off their growing. And to have stasis, to have calm, think of water. You can have massive waves on water that are constantly going like this. And there's these great crests. And don't forget that a wave is actually a circle. It's not just that. It's a circle. There's huge troughs, huge lows underneath. And people talk about everything growing all the time. Your currency can only grow against another currency, and when it does, the other currency falls. So there, for a start, the strength of your currency is the weakness of another currency, by definition. When people talk about the growth in the housing market, that is a lie. That's an out lie, because that's inflation. When things go up in price, but you don't get any more house for your money, that's actually not growth, that's inflation. If the house grew and got bigger, and your £100,000 got you a bigger house, that would be growth. But if your £100,000 now only gets you a flat, that's not growth, that's shrinkage. So that's an out-and-out lie, okay? Inflation, called growth, is quite a common thing, actually, that they use now to lie to you. And that's one of the figures they use to say that people are wealthier now than ever, because they say, well, look, everyone owns a £1 million house now. It's like 60% of people own a house worth £1 million now. They can only sell it and buy another one that costs £1 million, so they don't actually get anything out of that unless they buy a smaller one, in which case, did their house grow or did it shrink? And then who's going to buy that £1 million house when wages have stagnated? Because wages didn't figure any more into the figures than the prices of the property. Because, of course, at least half the people did well out of the properties. Did well on paper after the property rising in value. So you can afford to have at least half the people have falling wages, and then it just looks flat. But actually neither half benefited. The only people that benefit are the ones that skim that cream off the milk and sell it on. And what you end up with then, if everyone's selling their houses and downscaling to cream off that what could be seen to be profit there, that inflationary profit. Well, if enough people sold off their houses, like if everyone did it, then they'd all resume their original value. But I guarantee you that would not be put out as a growth statistic, as a shrinkage statistic. They would call it adjustment. The property market is adjusted. But you see, when you do that, and you cream that off, and you go off and you go and live somewhere else, again, you're not creating anything. You're not creating wealth. You're skimming a percentage of everyone else's wealth, just like the AI bots. If these AI bots are to be believed in all the YouTube scam adverts that I see constantly about these AI systems that'll make you money, they're only devaluing everyone else's money to make that money. You can't just win and only win by making money out of thin air. You've got to actually make something. You've got to actually do labour. Only your labour is worth actual economic value, or the labour of a robot. So we could, by employing robots, increase the economic prospects for everyone. We could increase the standard of living for the whole world by employing robots to work for us, because they would add labour to the market. And as I say, only labour is the only thing with true value. Labour. Now, and robots can give us labour for free. So think about that for a second. Free power from the sun. Solar-powered robots that build robots that work for us, and maintain robots that work for us, and build and maintain robots that build and maintain them. That would be paradise. Because that would be something for nothing. Because you're getting labour. You're getting that labour. But let's talk about space again for a second. Let's talk about everyone having to live in smaller houses now because there are more people. Can you not see that that's just a straight quantum? It's a straight swap. That the more people there are on the planet, the smaller their abodes have to be. Have you not noticed that? It's pretty bloody obvious. If you take the money out of the equation and you just look at the size of house that the average person can afford to live in, it is smaller now than it was 100 years ago. Much smaller. And if we just had fewer people, like if we had half the number, instead of 8 billion we had 4 billion, we'd have double the amount of land available and property available to live in. It would cut the price in half. Because that is a fixed commodity. Land. The land of the planet is a fixed commodity, so the more people you add to it, the more you slice it into thinner slices, which is exactly what happens with inflation when you slice up the currency. You've got the wealth of the whole country here in a big ball. This is Mike Malone's idea, it's not mine. And you slice the orange up into $10, and there's all your dollars. All the $10, when you put them together, will still only buy you an orange, because there's your labour. That's the 10 people working in the country, in the world, in this imaginary world with 10 people and $10. When you slice up that orange into $100, you just make thinner slices. So you need $100 to buy an orange worth of labour, 10 people's worth of labour. So it makes no difference. And that's what inflation actually is, as described by Mike Malone in Hidden Secrets of Money, Part 6. I think it's Part 6. But anyway, that is phony. You must be able to see. We've got billions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, certainly 1 million, that we could enjoy this planet, and we could luxuriate in stretching our numbers thinly over this planet and using the medium of time to expand the planet into many, many, many more future planets where the population is also spread thinly and has lots of space and time and a relaxing, lovely life. And we all live in a huge house. Everyone could live in a huge house if there were only 1 billion people on the planet. And instead of having to try and stuff 8 billion people into 70 years, you just have 1 billion people in it. And 560 years to get through the 8 billion instead of the 70. But it doesn't matter, does it? Does it matter which particular year you live in? Or your ancestors? It's all going to melt in the end anyway. Nothing's really preserved forever. So if we would be genuinely concerned for the welfare of the people on this planet, we'd make sure there were fewer of them. It's like a factory farm. Have you seen a factory farm with chickens? Does that look good to you? It's highly profitable. But do those chickens look happy? Well, that's what the planet Earth has become. It's become a factory farm. Now, just imagine the alternative. A free-range farm that only has 10 or 20 chickens. And they run around on these vast fields. The only cost of doing that is you have to stop being selfish and deciding that your family is going to be vast. Because if you do that, someone else will do that. And someone else, and someone else. And everyone will think that they're the only one doing it. Even if there was a rule, even if it was culturally unacceptable to do it, there still might be people that say, oh no, but I'll do it. But as soon as you're thinking that, believe me, others are thinking it too. Right? Selfishness. We have to think as a pack here. We have to think of surviving as a pack, as a team. And that means having fewer children. I'm sorry, but that's what it means. Means having 1 or 2 children and no more. And if that means governments don't give child allowance for the 3rd or 4th child, I don't know. Is that cruel? Maybe. Maybe that 3rd or 4th child, I don't know, has to be adopted or something. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I can't think of an uncruel answer. But if we don't solve this in a way that is relatively uncruel, the planet will solve it for us in an extremely cruel way. Because we've all seen how it turns out. You've seen the factory farms. You've seen those chickens' lives. You can't tell me that that's freedom. Freedom only comes when there is space to enjoy it. And there can only be space for us to enjoy freedom if we discipline ourselves to have that space. And we have a brain in here that I told you about earlier. And we have that 4th dimension of time that will allow us to expand the planet into the future. Instead of trying to expand it under the ground or trying to travel into space and all that absolute nonsense. And if you do have a brain in your head, you must know that that's nonsense. We're part of this planet. We are the moss that grows on this piece of wood. And we don't grow on other pieces of wood. And other pieces of wood aren't good for us to grow on. And we can't even get this planet's climate correct. How the hell would we ever change the climate of another planet that has an entirely wrong climate? So wake up and smell that coffee, if you would. What we need to do now, as I said at the beginning, I'm sorry to say it, but we have to let go of short-termism, where we've got to do growth for 4 years because you've got an election coming up. You've got to cut all of that shit out. All of that shit has to go. And we have to think as a team. And we have to use these. You haven't been using them a lot lately, have you? None of you. Especially the leaders. Because unfortunately leaders are such focused people that they often have more focus than they have intelligence. They have an amount of intelligence enough to become a leader. But the rest of it is just pure drive. And those of us that are a bit smarter, we're thinking about things too much to get on with anything. All we can do is talk. And that's all I am doing. And if that bothers you, a few words. If my words bother you, you just wait for what's to come. Because my words are nothing compared to that.